Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have with me in the studio Victor Adejoh, clinical psychologist and development practitioner, right? Yes. What's that, your agency?
Synagos. I work with Synagos as country director.
Country director of
Yes,
Synagos.
of
What
Synagos.
is Synagos? What do you guys do?
Synagos is a global non-profit focused on works around poverty, social and climate justice. And in Nigeria here, we've been working on issues of agriculture, developing leadership capacity to ensure that there's a shift from agriculture as subsistence and agriculture as business.
So you work around area of poverty.
So we work to address poverty issues, working closely with leaders who make decisions to bring about shift in the system.
Are you working with the present leadership? Because the level of poverty in Nigeria today is serious.
So yes, we are working with the current leadership at the subnational level, and our goal is to see how policy drives development. So we're working with government to develop people-friendly policies, especially in the agriculture sector, that is inclusive, is owned by the people, and it's also a full participatory process.
We shall get back to that. I have not even finished introducing you. Victor Adejoh is the chairman-elect of the Nigerian Psychological Association Abuja chapter.
Yes.
Great. You were talking about one of the areas Synagogue works in poverty alleviation and policies that drive development.
Yes.
What about policies that drive poverty? I mean, what we are seeing in Nigeria today, or is it only me that is seeing it, that we are having a series of policies in the last few months that have taken us backwards, that has quadrupled the level of poverty in the country. So what are you guys able to do? You are focused on policies that drive development.
Yes.
But we are witnessing policies that push us into further poverty.
So looking at policies from a sectorial perspective, agriculture is key or central in the government's drive to diversify the economy. And so we're looking at most states not having agricultural policies, having investment plans. And so our goal is to engage all critical stakeholders from government, the farmers, private sector, to ensure that they sit around the table. First, to ask themselves, what is the problem? Again, to see themselves as part of the problem. And then to collectively come up with solutions in addressing these problems. And so we've been able to engage different state governments, Kaduna State, Niger State. We've done this in Kogi and Benue State, to look critically at how policies are developed. Again, there are two ways to this. Policies are developed and implementation probably also has an issue. And so for me here, it is for us to critically look at where those policies and systems need to be unblocked to ensure that government's policy actually drive the development they are preaching. And again, it has to do with the leadership.
Victor,
yes,
we were going to discuss something else.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. But now I am interested in what you do.
Okay.
The point is, you talked about discussing with people in Kogi State,
yes,
in Kaduna State,
yes,
which other states?
Niger State.
Niger State. We
yes.
do have states in this country.
Yes.
One state that can literally feed the whole of Africa.
True.
Cross River State, for example.
Yes.
With an Amazon-like vegetation that you can grow practically anything in the world. Then you have Benue State that we call the food basket of the nation. Then you have states like Taraba and Yola is Adamawa State, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Towards the Cameroon borders areas. Then you have the Chad area. Now, many of those areas today you can't reach because of Boko Haram,
yes,
because of bandits. And the government appears either unwilling or incapable of guaranteeing the safety of farmers going to farm. I mean, if they can kidnap the Commissioner for Information, Benue State, is it the average farmer that will feel safe going to farm? So we have a serious problem of we have been driven into destitution, into poverty, acrimonious poverty, into destitution. So as you engage with policymakers, with government, do they actually have plans do these state governments actually have plans to boost agriculture in their states?
So, there are failed policies, and in some states there are absence of policies. So take, for example, Benue State. In the last 3 to 4 years, we've supported the development of an agricultural policy in Benue State. So you would imagine that Benue State, being the food basket of the Federation, does not have an agricultural policy. So we're working currently with the new government, and the governor seems to be very open to say that, look, if we have a policy being supported by development partners, why don't we pick this and start running with it? The policy was not developed for the state. It was developed by the state, by all the critical actors in the agricultural sector in the state. There is a huge correlation between the insecurity and the inability to government for government to effectively implement these policies. And how do I mean? The absence of these policies over the years have not been able to let us see government investment in the sector. And that has deepened the crisis, because Benue State is heavily labored or laden with a population that is agrarian.
Agrarian, I mean, that's what they are known for.
And so government over the years have continued to push resources into the sector, but because of lack of concerted implementation, I would say, I mean, nobody's having an eye on what government investment is doing. In any case, government investment is not enough to help drive that process. So it's opening up the space for private sector. The insecurity is caused by the fact that, young persons and farmers have not had access to credit, had access to, so, there are primary issues that have led to insecurity. That's what I'm trying to point out here.
Now that you are talking of Benue State.
Yes.
I had caused to travel from Makodi to Katsinala.
Yes.
Between Otupo
yes.
and, I'm sorry, between Boko and Katsinala, the road was so bad that I saw so many agricultural produce rotting on the way, because I imagine that it will be so difficult to move produce from one place to the other, and even to get to your farm. The roads were so bad, and I think that any policy that does not involve, first of all, infrastructure, making sure that these people can easily get to their farms and bring their produce from the farms to the town to sell, I don't see that.
So there are good policies. So what we have had in Nigeria is the fact that there is constant competition and silos operations among the ministry, departments and agencies. Everyone is competing to outdo the other in terms of the scarce resources available by government to, deploy these various infrastructures in place. And so we, working closely with government, is guaranteeing that if the leaders are able to make the right decision, prioritize effectively. You've mentioned road. Road is critical to advancement of agriculture. So it's the lack of priority, prioritization, the lack of effective planning, and the poor programming that has led us to where we are. Any serious government will now sit back with their leaders to reevaluate why they are failing. Every year, in and out, we have budgets. There are budgets to cater for these infrastructures.
But we find out whether those budgets are funded.
So this is where prioritization comes in. So we have the Ministry of Agriculture, that is the responsible arm for policy development and implementation. We have the ADPs that are responsible for full implementation. Now, if the ministry and the ADP begins to compete over resources.
Do we still have functional ADPs?
There are ADPs that are responsible for extensions. Now, when you say functional, then that takes us to another level of seeing how they are operationalizing the policy or the acts that have set up the ADPs. Now, frankly, it's all about leadership crisis. It's leadership crisis, and the fact that we are all chasing very limited resources, there is need for leaders to continue to sit down and have dialogue as to how they can prioritize, the issues and the needs in the agricultural communities, and then effectively plan towards it. So it's a leadership crisis.
Wow. Once again, you have come to the issue of leadership. So you have development partners.
Yes.
Your own inclusive.
Yes.
Synagogues inclusive.
Yes.
You have all kinds of individual efforts, individual initiatives. But if you don't have the right leadership.
So what we have come to learn over time is there is a capacity gap among the leaders. There is a lack of self-awareness. There's a lack of confidence to do the right thing. I was reflecting this morning and I was reading about a Greek philosopher who continues to speak about the fact that our character is our destiny. Who are you as a leader? Why are you in that space? What do you seek to achieve? Now, this is what is missing. And so most of our leaders, being in government and sometimes in private sector, have failed to even understand themselves. Your self-awareness allows you to be able to engage with empathy and compassion. You are in a place of decision making. Why is it that you are not awake to your responsibility to deliver that role? And so it's a lack of systems approach.
What has plagued this country,
Yes,
and reduced us to the level to which we have been reduced, has been perhaps since the 1966 coup that caused a major disruption in our in the development of democracy, our national development, in the growth of Nigerians into modern leadership, from transition from feudalism to modern governance and leadership. Now, that was disrupted with the coup and with the civil war and so on and so forth. Since then, perhaps the kind of characters that this society have been propping up in leadership, they are the ones that have done this to us. I mean, when I read, there are a number of things on YouTube now. We say, who has done this to us? It is the kind of characters, people who don't belong to our first 11, who don't belong to our second 11, who don't belong to our third 11, becoming leaders at all levels, local government, state, and national level. This is why we're where we are.
So, Father, sorry to interrupt you. Recently, just last week, the Nutrition Society of Nigeria held their annual conference. And one key thing that has come out clearly is that until and unless we are able to integrate leadership development into all sectors and all spheres of our national development, we will likely not go anywhere. And because our human development index is edging too low, look, not enough is done to ensure that, not just have education, to ensure that leaders evolve. So we have looked at how interventions have happened in Nigeria over the years, especially with nutrition, and the same thing for agriculture. So much money is going, development partners pumping money, government pushing so much resources into ensuring things happen. So why are things not happening?
To come and say, actually, when we are discussing the way Nigeria has been run down, I run a leadership outfit, Luke's Terra Leadership Foundation,
yes,
and I feel very, very upset that you call people who run this country at various levels, that you call them leaders. Because you see, when you talk about leadership,
yes,
it comes with a lot of connotations. Where you have people who have run this country for the last 40, 50 years, they made sure that they have taken care of themselves. Their children schooled abroad. If those of them that come back are occupying positions in some of the top-notch companies and very juicy government agencies in this country, then they have homes abroad. Then, when they are sick, they fly abroad. Then, somebody may have been Minister of Agriculture,
yeah,
or Commissioner for Agriculture. There's not a single tractor in the ministry, but in his own personal farm, you have 10 tractors.
So it's a lack of self-awareness.
That is no leadership. What
Yes.
I'm trying to say is that leadership?
So again, it's largely a lack of self-awareness. But I will say one thing here. There is need to begin to bridge leadership gaps, and that's what synagogues believe in. Our approach is bridging leadership. By bridging leadership, we mean that leaders should be able to connect. Leaders should be able to integrate from different positions. You speak about agriculture. The Ministry of Women Affairs is voting for agriculture, humanitarians dealing in agriculture, Ministry of Rural Development talking agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture talking agriculture. All these budgets are all spread, but yet
Nothing.
And they're working in silos. So there has to be a rallying point. And so we are talking about policy coherence and systems thinking. Why are we not thinking systems?
No. You are talking about lack of awareness. Lack
Yes.
of awareness.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness may be a major reason for the monumental corruption in
True.
the country.
True.
Because since you have been speaking, you have not mentioned corruption.
Well,
Because you are talking about money being voted for Agric.
yes.
Women, Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Agric,
Yes.
Ministry of
Rural Development, Environment, Water
and so on,
Resources.
Water Resources, and so on. Now, we need to investigate how much, what is the percentage of those monies voted that actually went in? We know the kind of racketeering that goes into fertilizer each year in many states. So, to find out, do we have up to 20% of the alleged monies voted for agric that actually went to boost the work of local farmers? Do we?
So yes, studies have shown. There is research out there that really indicates that there is a huge gap. Yes, corruption has been established. Corruption is perpetrated by people who are in position of decision making and who are rather influenced internally or externally by different forces. But what I'm saying here at this point is, I mean, moving away from the past and looking into the future from where we are now, we can begin to make a difference. So with your leadership institute, partnering with, for instance, my institutes and other institutes, we need to look at the individuals at the helms of affairs. We need to help them become self-conscious. We need to help them understand the role and the role they have to play in the system by understanding themselves.
Just 2 weeks ago,
Yes.
I happened to have the opportunity to address the members of the EXCO of Benue State,
Okay.
who came for a retreat in Abuja. So, and it is what I was dealing with. The fact is that if you are in government for 4 years or for 8 years, as commissioner, as director, as this, and your own life has become better, but the life of the people that you superintended has become worse, how do you feel?
So it's the lack of, and so from a self-position, we're talking of accountability, transparency. We are not even accountable to ourselves as humans. Where is the humanity in us? So these are questions that individuals, so that reflection time is a time you step back and you ask yourself, what value do I bring to the table? So there is a value erosion. And when we talked about the topic we're supposed to be focusing on today, these are the root causes of the problem that is associated with drugs today. We are surrounded by psychopaths who only think of self rather than collective.
And so what we get in terms of the widespread epidemic of drug abuse is a consequence.
Yes.
Is the fallout.
Actions and inactions of leaders who have either made the wrong decision or have failed to live up to their responsibilities.
I mean, you talk about, like I said, how can we, 63 years of independence, we keep talking of Nigeria as a potential. We have the potential. Cross River State has the potential to feed Africa. Adamawa State has the potential to feed. Benue State has the potential to. How can we still be just talking of potential? When are we going to actualize these potentials? When are we going to actualize them? And actually, the time has come for some of us to really, really be angry, because we can't continue like this. And it is sad. I mean, I'm getting older now, and I'm seeing Nigeria getting worse. It was much better when I was born.
Carl Jung says that we all are struggling against inferiority complex. And inferiority complex is also rooted in the fact that we have also lost our self-identity. I hear you speak deeply from your heart. I am also speaking with passion that we have lost it. And we have lost it because our identity is gradually being eroded by our lack of upholding the values and norms. We know what is right. Now, the normative is accepting evil as right.
Now, you say we know what is right.
Yes.
I'm wondering whether many people now know what is right. Because from your last statement,
yes,
the evil thing is now being accepted as normal.
Yes.
When you normalize a situation that is terribly scandalous, whatever, when you normalize it, that society gradually erodes.
Yes. So this is where we are now. And now, because we are battling with poor decisions that have been made by leaders, poor planning, poor projecting, we are faced with a future that has no future. How do I mean? Today is the future we were talking about yesterday. The future are the young people that are supposed to be coming into our today. They are nowhere to be found. What has been left for them? Nothing.
Is it not many of them that are on drugs now?
Yes. Again, when we talk about drugs, I speak from a place of empathy and compassion for a lot of people also involved in drugs. Sometimes it is not because they choose to. Look, no one has thought about the fact that the drug barons are deliberately pushing drugs into the
these
society
young people.
and to the young people.
No, I mean, we'll discuss that in
So
another segment.
all this is integrated, and all I am emphasizing, and I thank God for what you have done, for example, for a state like Benue State. And that's the kind of approach we are also preaching in Nigeria. Leaders need to be able to sit in the table and have conversations that are unearthing truth. We need to tell ourselves the truth. We need to face the reality. We need to mirror each other. So there's constantly allegations from farmers. They don't trust government. Government don't trust the farmers. The banks don't trust government. They don't trust farmers. How are we able to build trust? And for us as synagogues, we believe trust building works only if we're able to sit down and have conversations.
What is the problem about trust with farmers? Farmers are often victims of poor policy implementation or whatever. So what is the problem about trust of farmers?
So farmers also have issues of trust. They have issues of trust where a farmer is accessing credit and you know you are off season, but because you have labored to get that credit, you go ahead to get the credit and then you utilize that resources for another purpose, and when it's time to repay the bill, it becomes a problem. We had done an assessment on the Anchor Borrowers Program initiative by the state, central bank across 3 states, Benue, Kogi, and Kaduna states. We were clear and we understood that there was an issue of trust. And the fact that they all came to the table, agreed that this policy, the Anchor Borrowers Program, is beautiful. It's something that would have moved us from one point to another. But there was poor communication. There were issues of trust around price fixing. And because the farmers could not meet up with the price, they couldn't but not keep to the contract by side selling.
Okay, they were supposed to sell their produce at a particular
price. Yes, at a particular price. That's the agreement. I'm also a commodity broker. And my understanding of commodity means that you can have current price and future price. So future price means that I'm giving you this money. When you produce at the market rate as at in the future, I will be buying that. But when it comes to that future, the price would likely shoot up. And then you are likely not to be able to meet that commitment because you will be selling at a loss in the future. Spot price means that as you are producing, you are selling at the spot price today. And so farmers are not enlightened about this. And yes, trust is broken when it is time for you to bring the produce at the agreed price,
and it is not profitable for you.
And it's not profitable for you. So you side sell and probably get more money and probably want to return this money. But that was not the initiative that has been put in place. So again, people talk about partnerships. There's a huge problem in Nigeria, and trust is at the bane of everything that is failing today. There's a lack of trust.
And that trust deficit is from top to bottom, isn't it? I mean, we have a major credibility problem today.
Yes.
We have a major integrity problem today. So what we require is a major overhaul of our national system. I mean, it's a major overhaul because you are talking about trust deficit.
Yes.
And you know, my reaction immediately was, how can you be calling farmers? Because if a country like Singapore, if there is major trust in the polity, it is because the leader sets the tone.
Agreed.
When the leader sets the tone, then people fall in line. Now, in this country, don't we have a major trust problem between the people who are ruled and the people who rule us?
There's an emerging, perspective to leadership, leading upward, downward, and across. And so, I am a leader NN. Leader NN is Leaders Accelerating Nutrition in Nigeria. We are believing that from your position, you are a leader. So there's a leader, you lead from where you are. Even the farmers, every family has a leader. Look, until we're able to see, it's an individual thing.
Yeah, it's a perspective, Victor.
Yes.
That's a perspective, but history has shown that leadership comes downwards. You don't have I feel sad when people blame the victims. The point is that no society has been transformed by the wretched of the earth. The wretched of the earth can cause a revolution.
Yes.
But no society has been really transformed by the poorest of the poor in society. Usually it is from among the elite that societies are transformed.
And I want to clearly say to you, Father, that when you speak about these leaders up there, how did they emerge as leaders? Why do we call them leaders? We call them leaders because they are caretakers of our collective resources. We look up to them, not because they found themselves there. We also have played a role in getting them there. However, it is what we have entrusted in their care. And that's why we are holding them accountable. We are urging them to be transparent. We are calling them to a space of dialogue. Tell us what you have done with our resources. And this is failing because of a lack of self-awareness and value. They have lost it. They do not realize that you hold leadership role in trust for others.
Yes, I mean, clearly we need to go back to the drawing board when it comes to leadership. You have just mentioned how there are drug barons,
yes,
that produce drugs,
yes,
and literally lure young people to become addicts in this so that they can make money.
Yes.
Now, when you now have millions of these young people, how can they make enlightened decisions in terms of appointing leaders? How can they make enlightened decisions?
So this is where we are. Nobody, is really investigating. I have the courage of conviction to say publicly that we need to be empathetic to our leaders. We need to show compassion to our leaders because they are also humans. And the lack of empathy has led leaders to also lose themselves, and they themselves are part of users and also financiers of different levels of drugs. I've heard a young boy in a rehabilitation center say that, look, he knows leaders who are taking, and he sits with them. But you see, we said to him, you have joined them in taking that, you have now become useless to yourself, but they are taking and they're still being productive. So there is a level of self-awareness to what they are doing and what you are doing. And if you look at the statistics, when next we get into, that level of conversation, the dependents are the ones who are using these drugs without understanding what they are losing.
Well, on that note, we'll be bringing this segment to an end. I've been speaking with Victor Adejoh, clinical psychologist and the country director of
Synagos.
Yes. And
Synagos means synergy, bringing people together.
Yeah, so synergy.
Yes,
and
it's a Greek word. Yes.
Yeah. So we have been discussing about policy, failures in policy formulation and policy implementation, especially with regards to alleviating poverty in this country. And we will come back together to discuss the real issue of drug abuse in this country. But this has been useful, really.
Thank you.
And we came back to conclude on the whole responsibility of leadership. And your own position is lack of awareness,
yes,
self-awareness
among
a lot of people who run our affairs.
Exactly.
May the Lord grant us someday leaders that are self-aware, leaders that are not teenagers but have grown up and are aware of responsibility to themselves and responsibility to society.